Hey, welcome back everyone. Don here again. It's time to do the cooling system and take care of that heater core up under the dash so it'll stop dripping on my wife's feet when she's riding with me. I'm not looking forward to doing it, but it'll be good to get it done. So my plan is to drain all the coolant out of it, flush it all out, and bring it back to new on the inside. Right now I've got no thermostat, which is underneath this. There's no thermostat there. I did drain the radiator already, which you can see my bucket there, and my petcock was goofy. I couldn't get it out, so I couldn't just undo it, so I put a wrench on here and just took the whole fitting out. I'm gonna have to replace that, so I've got a new one here. I have this kit that I used before, and I cut into the correct heater hose, hook my garden hose up to this, turn the water on, run the engine, and it will flush it all out. Before I do that though, I want to drain as much coolant out because it's toxic and I don't want that stuff to just run all over the ground, right? There's two tubes to the heater core that come through the firewall, and one of them on that heater core is wobbling, so the solder joint let go, and here's the new heater core. I think it's this bottom solder joint on the heater core that's in the car. The joint let go, and so it's leaking. So I'm going to swap this whole thing out of here. Fun times. Don't scratch the paint. I've got a bucket down there to catch the coolant. So really I wouldn't have had to take this off, but I want to drain as much coolant out of the system as I can before I go ahead and flush it, so I'm not making a mess with coolant all over the place. This is just temporary because I will replace this hose. I'm going to tuck this back onto the water pump. So now that I've got as much out of this line as I can, I'll take it off the heater core and then take this side off the heater core, get these out of the way, replace the heater core, and then put it all back together. But I'll be putting a slice in this line to put that connector in there for a garden hose so I can flush water through the system. Of course, doing this and trying to film it makes it take twice as long. Getting in there with the camera to get an angle that's usable so you guys can see what I'm doing is pretty difficult. So this hose probably been on here 10 years. 10 years! 10 years, man!
10 years, man! 10 years!
Come on, you son of a gun! Nothing's ever easy. There we go. That post coming out of the heater core shouldn't be wiggling like that. I know, I apologize, you guys. I apologize for the angles here. You guys can't really see down in there very good. To be fair, neither can I. Of course, if I took that valve cover off, I'd have a lot easier time getting to this. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to. There we go. I'm going to get this off of there. We'll just pull the whole thing through. That works. So there's the piece of heater core that the solder joint came apart. So on the inside, what I've got to do is take this whole box out of here. The heater core is inside this. I've got to take my connections off for my controls that are up on top here somewhere, and then unbolt all of this and pull it out from under the dash. So it looks like I'm going to have no choice. I'm going to have to take the stereo out so I can get access to the top of the heater box. There it is. Now I got to find the antenna. It's plugged right in. There it goes. Duh, how about that? Take the head off. What a putz. You'd think I would have remembered that. The stereo's been in here for so darn long. And I'm the one who installed it. You'd think I would know better. I just can't remember. Good grief. Finally. I gotta take this plug out of here. I gotta unplug here. I gotta take this cable off. And there's some studs that go through the firewall. I'm gonna have to take the nuts off on the outside. And I think I got another cable that's probably more towards the driver's side. Fun. Fun. So these are the nuts that I gotta take out. There's one here, one down in that corner, and one down in that corner. I think the one down closer to the fender, I never put the nut back on it. And that is okay with me. Sorry for the angle. Hard for you to see. Can't get the camera down there, and my hands and my tools. One down. Two down. That's three. Getting that fourth one's going to be tricky. Ratcheting wrench in to save the day. 5/16. That's the one. Okay. Now, silly flashlight, come on. Work with me here, work with me. And that's the wrong size. Let's try this one. 1/4 inch, that's the ticket. So I took the heater box out. I had one more connection, this cable right here, to remove off the heater box, and then it slid right out. I don't know how I missed it, but in any case, I've got this heater core ready to go in. Of course, the bottom tube on it was bent so tight that it was hitting the firewall once it was in place, so I would have never gotten a hose on it. So I kind of had to tweak it a little bit, and hopefully it'll be all right. I think at this point, though, if this thing leaks again, I'm to the point where I'll probably just cap it off and run the car with no heat. We'll see how it goes. So I've got the heater core in, I've got the box all back together. I've got two size hoses. I've got a 5/8 inside diameter, and I think the other one's a 3/4. And so the smaller hose goes from the bottom tube on the heater core to this back port, which is on the engine block just behind the intake manifold. So you can see the bottom connection is here, and then the top connection is here. All right, that's pretty tight. This is the old heater hose. I'm going to cut this end off it because it's sliced, and I'm going to put it on. And then I'm going to disconnect it here, and I'm going to put a connector in between here for my garden hose. This one's all connected up permanent. This is connected to the water pump on this end, to the heater core on this end, and I'm going to put a connector in between. I just got to use the right size. I think it's this one, and I would be correct. So it's the next day, so I'm going to go ahead and put the stereo back in it, button all the interior stuff up, and then roll it out and put some water to it, flush the system. Like that. Like a glove.
Like a glove.
Box. So if you tried to do this with the thermostat in place, nothing would circulate until the engine got hot enough or the coolant got hot enough to open the thermostat. So because I don't have my thermostat in place, as soon as I start the engine, the water will start circulating all through the coolant system. So dealing with coolant is always messy, and having a shop do it is probably better, but you got to trust the shop that you're dealing with too. So I'm going to connect my hose here, and then I'll turn on the water. So the water's running. You can see there is a little bit of a tint to this, so there is some coolant left in here, but it's not a lot. I've got the petcock open, so it is draining out the bottom as well. And let's go ahead and start it. So it's only been a couple of minutes, and the water coming out of the radiator now is just perfectly clear water. There's no antifreeze in there at all. So that's good, although I am making a mess. I'll have to do some serious cleanup after, but the cooling system is pretty well flushed out. So my battery died. I had to go put another battery in my camera, but the water was flowing nice and clear. I still have it draining out the petcock. Well, I'll drain most of the water out of it, and then I'm going to replace this hose and open that up and put the thermostat in. Put this in place. It's 3/4 inch, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. Keeping it neat. Butterfingers. I have to be careful because I have a bad habit of over tightening bolts. Any bolts, all bolts. That should be it. Now we gotta take this apart and put a new thermostat in. Probably could take this out of the way. There it is, broken apart. I've got to clean the old gasket off of here, which I kind of put on in a pinch, but should clean up pretty easily. So I've got it all cleaned up, both sides. Any shop needs to have these. Their usefulness is endless. You just can't go without them. So I've got the new gasket here, and I will use my razor blade to tear the package open. Yet another use for those blades. So before I put this on, what I like to do is use this stuff. It's well, this particular one is Aviation Forma Gasket Sealant Liquid, and I know in the old days they used to come in a little brown bottle, and for something like the cooling system where it's going to be under pressure, I like to use this stuff. Typically I'll just put it on both sides of the gasket, and that will help seal things up. Kind of just paints on. It's a bit of a hassle, but it's something I've always done. I don't know if it works, you know, better without it or whatever, but I've never had a leak. So I got my thermostat here. So the spring side goes down towards the engine where the heat's going to be. Once this reaches 160 degrees, this will open up, but it has to be in the right orientation. So this is going to go on here, and when I do the engine cleanup here, I'm going to probably do some touch up and do some touch up paint on this engine. Although it's looking pretty ugly, I may just end up spraying the whole thing, just taping it off, take the carburetor off and valve covers, and just tape it all up and have at it, you know. So I definitely got some cleanup to do, but that'll come after. I'm sure there's no leaks or any of that. So one of the things with Pontiacs too is you'll notice this hose here goes from the heater core to a position in the back. Well, because of the way Pontiac routes the water inside the engine, it actually goes through the intake manifold as well, and I think that's why this hose actually loops around like it does, because on a Chevy there's two heater hoses that go directly to ports on the water pump. But Pontiac's not like that. Yes, they wanted to be special. Gallon number 2. Gallon number 3. But I did just put a little bit of concentrate in there because there is some plain water that's in the engine. So I'm going to let the engine warm up with the cap loose. That way any air can escape once the thermostat opens. And keep an eye on it, check for leaks and all that good jazz. But I think we're in good shape, and now I'll finally get to adjust those brakes. Hey, I appreciate you hanging out with me. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.